Hey, how's it going? And welcome to another video piano lesson. Today's lesson is going to be all about sight reading and a three-step process I've used to really help boost my sight reading and learn the skill a lot faster than just doing normal sight reading alone. So basically, the problem that a lot of people have with sight reading is they think about it as just one skill and they don't focus on any skill and they'll go through the music, they'll just play through it and try to sight read through it, and it'll be really hard. And the problem is they're not isolating each set of skills that it takes to learn how to sight read. So basically the main three skills you need are the skill to not stop, which is actually a lot harder than it seems, how to read full chords instead of individual notes, and the third one is keyboard topography, basically how to feel your way around the keyboard so you don't have to look down as much. So basically how this works is I've developed a process I like to use every time I'm trying to learn how to sight read. The first thing you want to do before you even start the 3 steps is what I call the scanning phase. Now the scanning phase is where you look at the piece and you quickly scan it and decide things like what key is the piece in, what is the time signature, look for any repeated patterns, because once you see a pattern that repeats, you can quickly your brain will automatically know, oh, that was just the same as the last pattern. And any tough rhythms. And what you're going to want to do with tough rhythms is before you actually play the piece, you're going to want to clap them out, because that's going to be the point where you get stuck in your piece. I guarantee you, rhythms is typically the part where people have a lot of trouble. So before you even start sight reading your piece, do all those things, clap the rhythms out. And what it'll do after you do this day and day and day after day is you'll get really good at scanning quickly. And that way, as you're sight reading, like if you're midway through a piece, you'll be able to quickly scan ahead and quickly see repeated patterns, tough rhythms. You'll quickly see, oh, does it change keys or is it a different key signature? So that's the first thing you want to do, is do the scan. Now the second thing, this is the first step to kind of the actual sight reading process. So this is where you practice not stopping. Now, as humans, for some reason, we have this ingrained behavior in us where when we mess up, we want to stop. And it's very hard to do. And you have to actually learn the skill of pushing through even when you want to stop. So how you do this is you simply take your piece and you run through it. And the only rule is you can't stop. And what you want to do, the key is to practice super slowly. So I'm going to take an example out of a book that I've done, years ago. And literally, this is how slow I would learn this song. So if I was starting, it would literally be this slow. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's literally like, I'm not exaggerating at all. That's literally how slow I would play the song, because it's really important to just not stop. It doesn't matter about speed, because your speed will come as you gradually get better at sight reading, but you want to play it literally that slow and focus on accuracy. All right, that's the first thing. Oh, and if you have trouble, if you still continue and you to stop or slow down to get the hard parts, get one of these guys, metronome. These guys don't lie. You can set it to a tempo and it will not allow you to slow down the tempo for the hard parts. You have to stick to this tempo. So if you're having a problem with that, you can always throw a metronome in. All right, that's the first sub-skill. Next sub-skill is reading chords instead of notes. And what I realized as I started progressing in sight reading is great sight readers realize it's impossible to read 100 notes and read every single note, especially when you get to faster and faster songs. There's no way you can do it. So what good sight readers do is they recognize groups of notes as a chord. That way they can, you can recognize 4 or 5 notes as one chord. So you only have to think about one thing, and you can go to the next chord and then quickly think about that next thing. So what I do is the second run through, I go and I play it again, and I don't worry about not stopping. All I worry about is before I play the notes, I have to say what chord it is. So if I'm running through this song, it sounds something like this. F major, F major, G major, C major, C major, F major, and I'll go through the whole song like that. Doesn't matter if I slow down or stop. Now, a couple of caveats to when you do this. For one thing, it's not always every single note is a new chord. It could be a whole measure that's one chord and a whole measure that's another chord. And also you have to know some theory to be able to know this. So you're going to have to learn theory. And I'll go a little bit more in depth how you learn theory in a later lesson. And one other caveat, some songs are just going to have some weird chord with a bunch of sharps and flats. For now, when you're a beginner, don't worry about actually saying that chord out loud. You can just play the notes and kind of skip over that chord because it's not worth it, every time you get a weird chord like that, trying to learn it. You want to learn the main chords of each song. So don't take that aspect of it too seriously. All right, so the first skill was not stopping. Second skill, reading the chords. Third skill is basically learning keyboard topography. And keyboard topography is how you feel your way around the keyboard so you don't have to look down. Because what I realized is a lot of times I could sight read, but it's like every time I look down my hands and look back up, I get lost. So you have to teach yourself to look down as little as possible. So on the third run through, you want to run through the song without looking at your hands. And this is going to be really, really hard to do at first, but as you do it more and more, you'll find it's actually not that hard once you start getting the hang of it. Now, the one exception to this is if you have a huge jump, maybe you're playing this and the next note is way down there, you can do a brief glance at those notes. But what you want to try to do is kind of look at the corner of your eye. Don't tilt your entire head down to look at, some note way down there. You just want to tilt your head as least as possible and just use your eyes to look at that note. All right, so that's the entire process. First, you want to scan and what key is the piece for any repeated rhythms. Then the next step, play through it without stopping. And just one time. Don't play a bunch of times without stopping, just one time. The next step is to play through it again, read the chords, not just the notes. And the third skill is keyboard typography, so play through it again without looking down. And once you've done these three, then you want to check your timer. If you've done your 5 to 15 minutes for the day, that's it, you're good. You've sight read for the day, you've made some progress. If you haven't, then you can go onto another song, but don't repeat that same song again. Sight reading is one of those things you don't want it to be a memorized song, because once you memorize a song, you're no longer sight reading it, you're just playing it by memory. And there's actually a lot of schools that say you shouldn't play it more than once, this 3-step process. No, you should just play it one time and move on. I fundamentally disagree with that philosophy because I think that especially starting out, sight reading is extremely hard. So yeah, the second and third time, you may be playing some of it by memory, but that's okay because we're still drilling in different skills. So what I always do is I always play the song one time, and I play each song one day, and then the next day I also play the same song. And even though, some of it's going to be my memory, you want to play each song twice. I just have found that helps drill everything better into your system. So how I use that is, if you notice on this book, oh man, it's going to be out of focus, but basically for each song there's an X to complete it. So what I do and this is an old book, so I've already X'd off all of these, but what I did is the first time I played through this song, I just drew one line like this. And the second day I played through this song, I draw the other line to X it off. Now, if I had a lot of trouble with the song one day, I might not put either of the lines. That means, okay, this song is really hard and obviously has parts I really need to work on. So I'm not going to put either of the lines of the X. But once you get both lines of the X, that means you can move on to the next song. All right, so that's basically the process of learning to sight read. Now, a couple other things I want to talk about. First of all, what music do you sight read? Now, I highly suggest getting a sight reading program or method book. Now, I spent a lot of time trying to do what I call the free way, which is like looking up public domain sheet music online, stuff that is free and legally free, and downloading it and try to learn it. The problem with that method is sight reading has to be at a very specific skill level, right? So if I'm trying to learn to sight read something that's way too hard, it's not going to do me any good because I literally can't do it. And it's like trying to practice basketball against Michael Jordan. He's just going to blow by you every time and, dunk in your face, and you're going to you're not going to improve at all. And on the same scale, if it's way too easy, you're going to play through it and you're not going to improve at all because it doesn't challenge you. So you have to have the exact amount of challenge at the right time. And that's why it's important to have some kind of method book for sight reading or some kind of program. Now, the one I personally use, it's called Improve Your Sight Reading, and there's like 9 different books in the course by Paul Harris. I wish I could say that this is the best sight reading course, and I know for a fact that it's the best one out there. To be honest, this is the only one I've used. It worked for me. I liked the format of it. It broke down, every lesson is kind of a different skill, and then it would give you a bunch of sight reading examples, maybe in one key, then the next week it'd be a different key, and I like the way it worked. You can also look up other sight reading methods. They might be just as good. But whatever you do, get some sort of program or method. And the last thing I want to say is, look, don't get frustrated if you're doing this for a while and it seems like it's so hard to make progress, because sight reading is just one of those things that takes a notoriously long amount of time to learn. I mean, people have created memes on the internet, because it's so funny to them how long it takes, to learn how to sight read. But if you use this process, I promise you, it'll give you a boost and you will learn a lot faster. So practice this and make sure you do it every single day. It's like brushing your teeth. If you want to get good, like anything else, it's all about consistent practice. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace out and happy practicing.